I'm Addison Cleaver with the Oklahoman, and I'm here with Stacy Dykstra, the CEO of the Regional Food Bank. And we're just going to be talking a little bit about what's been going on. I know COVID has been crazy, and Stacy, you're still in early months of being the CEO. So I wanted to talk to you, especially with the pandemic has been going on for almost a year now. How has your time been, during all the craziest year I feel like anybody's had?
It has been exhilarating. The inspiration and energy I get from the people who are working here and from the stories from our partner agencies, it's just been an amazing 4 months of learning and growing and inspiration.
In the beginning of 2020, that's when the pandemic started, and I know requests were just unbelievably high last year. So how have requests been at the food bank this year, in comparison to last year?
We are still seeing increased need, and we're still seeing new people that we haven't seen before. And, I don't know exactly what to make of that, except for that just, we are living in very challenging times.
And I have heard, you hear people say, this is something I've never had to do before. And you said you're seeing new people. So is that something you've also heard, others say?
That is what our partners that are running our pantries tell us all the time. And, it's hard. I mean, everybody wants to take care of themselves, right? And do things on their own. And no one wants to have to ask for help, but we all actually need and receive help every day. I mean, right? We don't live our lives in isolation. Someone's helping us, pick up kids if we need that, or, we're always helping one another. And so we just want to make sure everyone knows this is just part of what we do for one another as Oklahomans. And food is available, and we just want people to reach out if they're facing challenges that prevent them from getting the food they need.
So can you talk about maybe some of the challenges COVID-19 has brought, either with volunteers, donations, whatever they may have been, and how you all overcame those?
I wasn't here when we started really were faced head on with the challenge of COVID. And I cannot imagine what that might have been like for this wonderful team that I'm part of now. But I'll tell you, they are smart and resilient, and they absolutely reacted in a creative way to meet the needs. Like you said, this whole social distancing, how do you get food to people when you're not supposed to be near people, right? I mean, you're just like, this is a little perplexing, but we are so fortunate that we had our partners. And so we currently have 300 of our partners that are still actively getting food to people. And so what they did is they just thought about how do we do this differently and safely? And so we're seeing a drive-through model in a lot of instances that's working wonderfully. And people are able to stay in their car, we're able to keep social distanced, and we're able to still get food to people in need. So it's really neat to see how they just thought, they just creatively put their heads together, innovated, and met the need quickly, very, very quickly for our state.
Well, that's great to hear. And I know last year, as you said, you weren't here during the, height of the pandemic, but last year retail food donations dropped because of many grocery stores, their shelves were empty while people were preparing for the pandemic. Have you seen those donations return now that quarantine orders are, not as harsh as they were?
It's such an interesting situation because we don't have volunteers here. And so we have this group of very loyal people who have been reaching out, how can we help? How can we help? And so there have been lots of individual food drives or neighborhood food drives or work-related food drives that have tried to help with that, like you said, kind of fill that gap for us. But, we are missing those donations of food. I mean, we appreciate everything that's coming in, but the pandemic in and of itself has really, curtailed that a little bit for us. And so we are having to purchase, food in a way that we hadn't had to in the past.
And you mentioned, people asking, how can I help? If there are people listening or watching this asking the same thing, is there anything you would like to tell them?
Well, absolutely, always donating food is helpful, and donating money is also very, very helpful during this time so that we can purchase the food that we aren't getting donated or isn't coming from the government, to make sure that we get food to people. And just, we miss our volunteers so much. And so we are just anxiously awaiting a time when we can open the doors back up to the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma and have people come in here and help us actually get the food packaged up and ready to go out. So please stand by for that opportunity as well. But right now, absolutely, food donations and funding is really the best way you can help.
And I want to pivot and talk about the rebranding of the food bank. And so can you just talk a little bit about, the rebranding and maybe the meaning and symbolism behind the new logo and kind of just the new rebranding?
I'd be happy to. It's the first time in 30 years that we've really thought about, a whole new logo. And it started a couple of years ago, and we secured some funding that was not earmarked for food in any way. It was earmarked to do this research to try to better understand kind of, what people thought about our name and our brand and the organization as a whole. And we found that there was a strong affinity, but respondents did feel that logo, being 30 years old, didn't really represent the work that it had become over these 40 years of work and across our 53 counties. So we set out to create a new logo, and we had hopes it was ready this time last year, and we had hopes of unveiling it as part of our 40th year anniversary. And obviously we felt like it was more important to stay focused on the people of Oklahoma, and so we did not do that. But as we see kind of light at the end of the tunnel and hope in the future, we felt like it was just the perfect time to launch the logo and remind people we are who we've always been, but we're always going to be here and continue to support our state in this very important way, but that it's all of us doing this together. And the logo represents the partnerships and just the hope that we have working together to make sure we meet the needs of our state.
And looking at the logo and, reading the symbolism behind it and the meaning behind it, can you just talk about the reach the Regional Food Bank has across the state? I know you mentioned that a little bit, but just, how drastic that reach is.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, and maybe even kind of talking a little bit more about the pieces of the logo as I do that. So the fork actually represents the nutritious food that we provide. It's our main job. And you notice that coming out from that are those pretty rays, right? And that really represents, we actually serve 2/3 of our state, 53 counties in all of western and central Oklahoma. And we also partner with our sister food bank in the eastern part of the state, and even food banks outside of our state. And so those rays also represent the partnership. So we feel like they're very hopeful, but they also represent the reach that you asked about. So I think it's really, not only is it beautiful, I think, and I love that it's the shape of the state of Oklahoma, but it also really has a very clear visual about who we are, as a member of our state.
Well, is there anything important you feel like we didn't talk about that you also want to add to this conversation?
Well, I would love to just give, if you don't mind, our phone number is 972-1111. And if anyone has any questions or needs anything, to feel free to call that number. Or we do have a brand new website with part of this rebrand, and it's gorgeous and it's really easy to navigate. And if you just go to rfbo.org/get-help, it'll pull you to a screening. You just type in your 7-digit zip code, and it'll show you all the places nearby that you can access food.
Great. Thank you so much, Stacy. This was great information to have.